Jared is getting really creepy with things because, so he used me to keep his property clean, right? He gave $800 extra to his ex-roommate who was also doing extra work around here, and later on got upset and spent like days convincing him about the money ratio to ratio. And finally, to shut him up, Jarrett was like, all right, fine, here's the extra cash. And the guy was like, okay, cool, and then he moved out and left. And so, like, I tried to have, a mature conversation with him about the work, and he still calculates his mortgage amount with his job compared to someone like me who can't make as much money as him because of my living situation and documentation weight listed. And so he's using that to put me at a lower status of being seen as a person, basically treating me down to slave work, slave labor, and pretty much the same thing as, what he didn't acknowledge about his other roommate. And so he just sees it as a lot of whining and lying, even though he knows he took me out to see property of rich people that sometimes stay up here or have workers, he's like, yeah, I know what it takes to keep a place running. Right now, if it's under construction, it's under construction. If it is under keeping it in maintenance, then it is in maintenance. And so, he's telling me all these things about being a boss and knowing how to treat workers and all this stuff, because he worked under these famous people in the Jackson Hole, Dubois area. And he's like acknowledging all that, telling me, and then later on, after I am motivated to work and provide these services to him, because he's like, I will acknowledge that and help you out. He's like telling me hour per hour or per clean, this much money, and then later on he gives me only partial payment, and then later on he's like, no, I don't want to pay you, because then he brings out mail he receives of mortgage bills and other utilities, and he's like, no, I am focused on my bills, and why would that be a reason to pay you? And so, that's work that is being unpaid to me, and attitude, behavior that he knows, like I told him my background of not having any resources and having to stay at a homeless shelter to wait for the documentation to go through different court systems. And because, the lawyers gave me my receipts and that it reached the system place. It's just, part of the process of waiting, which sucks and is awful because I've had my crying days due to, the wait and having to know a different side of people who on social media, like Jarrett, being like, oh, I'm all about humanitarian services and I am out there in nature and I love my dog Annie and I have a cat now, which makes me extra helpful and extra the amazing, lovable Smitty around. And while he's treating me like a nobody, and he enjoys deciding when he can decide things with someone, myself, who cannot do anything. Like, I don't have much besides the clothes I've been wearing for months, which is like I'm being creative with trading in some extra looks there, but I've been sticking with like one or two set of colors. And I've had to condense the way that I have lived before. Like, I had the school life, short money look and life, which was pretty minimal, and this is like half of that, which is really minimal. And he's from a privileged home, which brings him to the Jackson Hole, Wyoming area, so he knows the minimalistic lifestyle stuff, but he uses that as a reason for me to believe him in saying, oh yeah, I don't have to worry about anything, because the one thing he hasn't taken is the couple of eggs that his chickens provide, because he needs someone to feed them throughout the week, or else within a week they'd be dead. And then he can't be around to collect those eggs either. So yeah. And then he gets upset when I get excited over being able to get a pizza, or through my period stuff and some level of ADHD, being like, oh, sugar, oh, ibuprofen. And then, him being like, yeah, well, that's a lot to offer you. And then him posting online, he wanted me to start posting our time together, where he was like, oh yeah, for my birthday time, we went up and I showed you this cool hieroglyphic rock place, and then I have my own style of things on social media to help me out with keeping myself in check, keeping my life in check, keeping every educational thing I've had in check so I don't forget anything, and prepping myself for a communication science style, I have a bachelor's in communication science, so it's keeping up with a life that I need, because it's a part of me and I don't want to lose any extra things that I have paid, which he gets upset because he's like, oh, so you don't have any bills? And I'm like, that should make you happy because, you know, I paid off all those things, and that should help. That should help not having the extra judgment on me. But then it works opposite because he's like, oh no, I still have mortgage and all these other bills. And so he gets like super sentimental about that stuff, right? Including, you know, like, when's my time to be in your life screenshots on Instagram or things like that? Or why not my dog? Or, you know, like, because he's like trying to promote his property for Airbnb, and his website and stuff to have bookings. And then he's like, you better hurry up, you know, like really hinting at that because he wants to buy these side-by-sides, and he was hoping that more people would book because he has the website up. And he wants those people to show up during the winter time so that, you know, he can make more money. And so, you know, he's like, yeah, and if they book, well, I've already driven back the hour so every time there is a new guest before in the past year or two. So if I have to work extra hours to clean up, then I will. And then I'm like, okay, so you're taking advantage of me. And then he's like, no, because you have a place to sleep. And then I'm like, but you've been yelling at me that I've been sleeping when I'm telling you also that apart from a lot of extra work, like turning this house upside down to look like a normal house, and the cleaning up all the construction area he has, and all the drills and all those things, organizing, and then Jarrett is getting really creepy with things because